My bad, y'all. I'm gonna have to delete the other video from the channel because kind of had some technical difficulties. Sorry, I just had to check it to make sure it's working. What's good, everyone? GZTV back with another video, and today we are going to be talking about The Walking Dead. I watched the 10th episode of Season 4 last night, and today I'm actually watching the Season 5 finale for Better Call Saul, so that's kind of fire. I can't wait for that. I'm actually going to have to buy the 6th season for Better Call Saul. I think I'm going to have to go on Prime Video and get it, but it is what it is. I'm fine with it, so yeah. We're going to get through the plot. We're going to get through what people thought. I might give some personal thoughts, but really I think I echo similar sentiments to what people think most of the time here. This is a pretty crazy episode. A lot of revelations on the fate of the other survivors, the aftermath. The after episode, episode 9, really just discussed what happened to Michonne, Carl, and Rick. No one else. So here's the episode where we highlight what happened to the other survivors. So in a flashback, we're going to start with Beth and Daryl. Beth narrates a diary entry discussing her hopes of a new life in the prison. So she's making dirt journals. Obviously, we know it's pretty self-explanatory. This is the time when the group arrives at the prison after leaving their farm, and she's kind of discussing how she's like not in her own bed anymore. She's living in a prison. Yeah. In the present, she and Daryl are sitting around a campfire having fled the prison. So they're kind of surviving together, trying to lift each other up, trying to help each other out, get through it, try to find the others. Obviously, that's the mission of everyone here, is to kind of regroup. Beth insists that they must not be the only survivors of the governor's attack and demands Daryl help her look for the others. He doesn't really have that much optimism, but obviously he should, because we know that at least Rick, Carl, and Michonne are alive, so they have something to fight for. But obviously they don't know that in the moment, and it's hard to have hope in an apocalypse. It makes sense. Let's see. Beth insists, She then goes off on her own into the forest with Daryl following in slow pursuit. So he realizes he can't leave her. She's starting to leave. She's starting to go on her own mission to find these people. And there goes Daryl following her. He knows he can't leave her behind. They find some footprints, which Beth believes could be Luke or Molly's. They look like little kids' marks. And argues with Daryl that they're still alive. Daryl's like, there's no hope anymore. He's got like this pessimistic view on everything. And she's like, come on, man. You gotta be more optimistic. These people survived. They're tough people. They've gotten through a lot of situations. Who knows? They also find human blood and signs of a walker attack, and are attacked by a walker who emerges from the trees. I think he was buried into the tree, which is crazy. It was so weird. I don't know. Eventually, the pair discover and kill several walkers feasting on human remains by some railroad tracks. So they find an opening, and usually you find some survivors here. And these railroad tracks are pretty damn important in this episode, actually. Beth spots a small shoe, assuming it is young Luke and Molly, amidst the remains, and breaks down crying because she realizes that the children could have possibly died, and this is kind of her proof, her evidence. They aren't sure what to think. Lizzie and Micah, we're going to move on to their situation with Tyrese, are walking along in the woods behind Tyrese because, as you know, during the prison war, Tyrese saved the kid, or the kids saved Tyrese, and Tyrese led them away from the prison. So now that's another group. There's a lot of fucking groups. It's kind of insane, actually, how many groups are involved, how many split-ups we had. When they stop to ask a question, Tyrese turns around and is revealed to be carrying a still-alive baby Judith, which is awesome. So she's with the group as well. Now Rick and Carl have no reason to mourn and cry because Judith is still alive, which is awesome. That was kind of like the suspense, will she survive? I don't know. As night falls, they find a clearing to rest in. They find a place to kind of set up camp. Tyrese feeds Judith while Lizzie sits on a nearby log, home to rabbits. Lizzie is a fucking... I don't even know what's wrong with her. She's giving me school shooter vibes. I'm not really sure about it. She quietly removes her knife and kills them. She's ruthless. I don't know what the hell Carol taught her, but I don't know. I don't really like what she's doing. Shows very weird behavior. The group is forced to flee after hearing walkers nearby. So every time they hear walkers, The little girls obviously can't really fend for themselves, so they just kind of move somewhere else. They're always moving. The next morning, the group finds a grapevine and begin picking the grapes. So obviously now they have a food source, and that's through the grapes. Micah is startled by a noise in the bush and runs off as Tyrese is changing Judith's diaper. So now Tyrese can't really do anything. Micah has gone missing. Yeah. Tyrese and Lizzie give chase and find Micah hiding behind a tree, so she's okay. She just hid behind a tree. We thought she was going to die at first, but it's all good. As the group recomposes themselves, they hear screaming in the distance. That means there must be survivors somewhere and that there's hope for civilization, because walkers don't make that noise. Tyrese leaves the girls, saying he has to go investigate, and they need to keep an eye on a crying Judith, which is a really dumb idea to leave a bunch of little girls around a crying baby. I don't know what, the walkers are attracted by sound, so what the fuck? Why would you do that? I don't know. Lizzie covers Judith's mouth to muffle her cries, and it almost seems like Lizzie's trying to, suffocate her. I mean, Jesus Christ. I don't know about this one. A pair of walkers nonetheless begins to close in, so obviously they're getting attacked. Micah attempts to warn her sister, but as Lizzie is quieting Judith, she begins to slide her hand up over the baby's nose as well, becoming increasingly lost in the moment. She doesn't know what she's doing. She's kind of blacking out and trying to fucking kill this baby. I mean, Jesus. So Tyrese comes upon a walker attacked by a set of railroad tracks, the same railroad tracks that were visited by the first group. I don't remember. Oh, Beth and Daryl. Yep. Two men, Christopher, who got introduced in this episode and actually has a pretty big role, he's played by Cameron Dean Stewart, and another man, played by Michael Harding, are fighting off a group of walkers. So there is civilization, there are people around. Tyrese kills the walkers, but is unable to prevent the men from being bitten, so these men die, so now he has no one else to lean on. He still has the girls to deal with. He then hears Micah's handgun fire off in the distance, realizing they are in trouble and they are in combat. As Tyrese begins to head back for the girls, the three of them, along with Carol, walk out of the bush. So Carol is alive. She is back in the series, which is kind of crazy. A lot of plot convenience here. Look, I mean, it's kind of weird that most of the group survived. But yeah, this is going to be a long video, guys. Just be ready for it. Tyrese welcomes her back, unaware of her exile by Rick. Obviously, Carol knows better than to tell a guy as fucking big and as aggressive as Tyrese about this. Before he dies, the older man, who attacks Daryl and Beth in the woods, once zombified, which is a cool little detail, tells Tyrese about a sanctuary up the tracks and that there's hope and that there's humans up there. Whatever. The group follow the track and come upon a sign promising community for all at a nearby place of safety. So they might have found their safe haven. So now we move on to another group. Maggie, Bob, and Sasha are in the woods by a quarry. That's kind of where they're cooped up. That's kind of how they've been surviving all this time. Maggie sharpens her knife on a rock while Sasha bandages Bob's shoulder. He obviously, most of the people got hurt during this attack. Sasha tells Maggie they should camp there for the night and they should settle down. Maggie, however, sets off in search of Glenn, reluctantly followed by Bob and Sasha, so they realize they got to keep moving, they got to go find Glenn, they got to keep finding other survivors. That's the goal. Sasha is frustrated at what she sees as a waste of time. Bob, however, argues that the search gives their lives a purpose beyond mere survival, and plus they need to keep moving around. And that's a good thing. While walking, they come across again, very convenient. They come across the prison bus. Oh, wow, which is shot up and filled with walkers who are prison survivors who either died in the shooting or were attacked and turned by those who did. So pretty much everybody that got on the prison bus died. So Maggie insists on checking to see if Glenn is inside, see if he's dead, try to find some clues about him. After Bob says they'll do it together, and Sasha reluctantly agrees. Sasha opens the emergency door with the intention of allowing one walker to exit at a time so they can see who it is, kill them, and move on. Eventually, the press of walkers trying to exit the bus proves too much, and Sasha can no longer hold the door, so now they are under attack by the walkers of the prison bus. As the walkers attack, Bob and Sasha are forced to defend themselves. Maggie doesn't know what to do. She initially seems dazed. She's kind of sitting there trying to take it all in. And is nearly killed by a walker before Bob intervenes, so he saves her life. She then becomes enraged and begins to kill the walkers, repeatedly smashing a female walker's head into the bus. before stabbing it. Maggie then goes onto the bus to see if Glenn is inside. After killing a walker that had been stuck inside, she sits down and begins to cry, realizing he is not there. And maybe it's tears of joy because there's still a possibility that he's alive, you know? Now we get to Glenn. After awakening on a prison walkway that was destroyed by the tank, Glenn calls for Maggie again. Such plot convenience that the tank fucking blew it up and left Glenn on this platform, like perfectly perched up there. Despite his initial despair, he collects some clothes and supplies, including Bob's bottle of brandy, puts on riot gear, and then pushes his way through the walkers. This was like, I mean, maybe he had no other choice. I mean, the jump from the other walkway was a little too big, so he had to, like, push the fucking... he had to, like, fucking Marshawn Lynch beast mode the motherfuckers. It's kind of cool, though. Derrick Henry the motherfuckers. After escaping the crush, he sees Tara, who has locked herself behind a fence to protect herself. So now Tara and Glenn are in a group to escape the prison. They're the last of the prison group that is still there. Glenn joins her, and after checking to see what her weapon is not fired during the attack on the prison, tells her they should go. She's like too scared to shoot her gun. She's just been kind of sitting there waiting out the walkers. Tara refuses, saying that she joined the prison attack and is thus responsible for its outcome. She deserves to die. However, Glenn insists he needs her help. Like, he needs her to come with him. He can't do this by himself, which he probably could, but he's just using that to save her life. You know, he doesn't want to see... She's pretty innocent, actually. She didn't even fire a gun. I mean, yeah. He grabs Bob's bottle of brandy and, using it to create a Molotov cocktail, throws it to ignite a car to distract the walkers. While the walkers are distracted by the fire, Glenn and Tara escape the prison and reach the road near to the prison bus. So Tara describes seeing her sister Lily being swarmed by walkers on the field outside the prison and reveals Herschel's death to Glenn, because Glenn did not realize at first that Herschel had passed. She tells him Brian had told her the prison group were bad people, and Glenn doesn't know who Brian is. She'd believe him, but sees now that wasn't true, and she cannot understand why Glenn would want her to help, given that she turned on them. Glenn explains that he needs to find Maggie and he needs her help. After a small group of walkers attack, Glenn collapses, wheezing, leaving Tara to kill a walker on her own to finally give her a chance to do something, you know. She looks up to see a military truck is pulled up. Very interesting. Tara yells at the truck for not helping, and 3 people climbed out. Sergeant Abraham Ford, who's going to have a pretty big role in the series, I think, played by Michael Cudlitz, Dr. Eugene Porter, played by Josh McDermott, and Rosita Espinosa, played by Christian Serratos. Abraham says to Tara, "You got a damn mouth on you, you know that? What else you got?" So that's kind of the plot twist. We meet new people. They're getting introduced in the show, and again, it's a little redundant, but I will let it slide for now. Oh my goodness, this video is going to be like 20 minutes long. Alright. Mixed reviews, 8.3 out of 10 on IGN. On the whole, the pace felt better this episode, though After's more focused quality was pretty enjoyable, and there were some decidedly juicy and tension-filled moments. A couple of factors prevented Inmates from really rising to the level of, say, an intermit, though there were a few moments where the series could have made a bold move but chose not to, which deflated the momentum a bit and some rocky exposition. The episode moved the plot forward with check-ins on each of the prison survivors, the introduction and or reintroduction of some key characters, and a path to a new, somewhat mysterious location. Ultimately, Inmates functioned mainly as a setup for the remainder of the season. The episode's pretty simple. I like it. This episode wasn't full of compelling plot twists, well, maybe a couple, and it didn't do a deep dive into the psyches of the main characters. Instead, it was more of a housekeeping episode, doing the necessary taking stock of the large cast and the aftermath of the chaos of the prison's destruction. I like the series' characters and how they were introduced. I don't know about you guys, but I like this. It's cool to see a check-in, and maybe this episode isn't as important as it should be, or isn't as good as I'm saying it is, but yeah, the trials and tribulations of these characters are still captivating to watch and recap. Therefore, while it's all nice and good that Rick, Carl, and Michonne are relatively okay, you kind of want to know what the other survivors are doing, and this episode does that for us. A B- on the AV Club. The episode's inconsistent focus on the different characters was kind of weird. It was a little inconsistent. The script's anthology-esque approach of spinning a few scenes with several different groups of characters results in some stories lasting longer than they need to, while others barely register. Where the previous episode played like a cohesive unit from beginning to end, an episode in which, whether you like them or not, every piece was designed to establish the struggle of survival and to answer the question of why it was so necessary to survive in the first place. Inmates continues these themes. Just about everyone is trying to decide whether or not they should go look for other survivors. Just about everyone is strung out with grief and fear and worry, but never becomes more than a collection of modestly interesting moments. That's always the challenge of serialization on television, trying to make table setting hours into something like a full meal. Some people didn't like this episode. The show's presentation of the characters wasn't great, they think. All told, a decent but irritating episode of The Walking Dead, bogged down once again by the show's oldest problems. Some people know this is a TV series about zombies, but they like to see the living... they'd really like to see the living, breathing human characters start acting like real people at some point. Although people enjoy Walking Dead, a character drama, though, it's coming up short of greatness. A lot of high hopes for season 4. Some people were disappointed. They've dropped. The show struggles to push past the sort of cozy, entertaining mediocrity that defines an episode like this one. So that's kind of the bad things. I think it is really cool that they went back and introduced and brought some characters back. It is kind of like a plot convenient episode. I think that's a big problem with me. Like, why the fuck did every single person damn near survive? We know that Herschel died. Why did everyone that didn't die in the previous episode survive? I don't know. It's kind of strange. But I'm just going to leave it at that.